All right, let's just fix a couple of the problems that I left in there. The nostril wing. Okay, move brush, pull it in. As I mentioned, I want the nostril. I want the alar cartilage to grow at the expense of the nostril wing instead of growing them both, and that'll effectively make the mouth or the nose blockier as opposed to less pointed. Teeth penetration happening there. Let's go into the orbicularis oris, or the mouth, and just use move and move it out. Okay. Anything else I want to change before we move forward? No, looks pretty clear to me what the job is now. So let's see how much trouble we get into when we remesh this. And remember, remeshing starts at the top subtool. You can turn that X off and then remesh. Okay, there we go. Let's take our remesh figure and let's see what we can do. So I'm gonna go solo mode, and let's start by blocking out planes. So just a reminder, I'm in draw, my focal angle is 35 and aligned object is on. So in case you're looking at the way my profiles are working, that's important. Alright, so a couple of plane changes, a couple of very distinct planes that I'm going to always work on and that I just want to spend extra time on here. Okay, we're going to definitely be working with the line or this kind of plane break that the masseter makes. And so I'm going to be kind of trying to treat this entire masseter as one plane that's basically flowing backwards. Okay, there's a very clear plane change right here. You can kind of see it. This is such an amazing triangle right there. But what I do is just fill that in so it's all straight. It's all clean and simple. We could break it up a little bit more, but see right here where the zygomatic is, this is going to start to set up the infraorbital triangle, which is really not a triangle. It's kind of more of a rectangle. And that's, of course, going to be its own simple plane as well. So we could set this up a little bit more, where this is its own rectangle as well. These are all the things we get to play with. So keep planes in mind as you're doing this. Also, keep in mind that I did not just give you exact planes. Okay, there's some variation, and at the end of the day, you want to start the investigatory process. You want to start to find these plane changes yourself. If you're like me, you learn by doing. Or I should say that more positively. If I'm like you, you learn by doing. I learn by doing. Something like that. Alright. Filling in. I'm using trim dynamic and pressing Alt, and I have backface masking on. If you've forgotten, backface masking is under brush palette, auto masking, backface masking. Okay, and then I'm just trying to make sure that I'm getting clear, clean planes. I want to make sure I get a plane from here to here to here. Okay, because this is the zygomatic, this is the depressor anguli, and that's the masseter. And then this is all just in between stuff. Okay, now let's round out that chin because we're going to be moving from the depressor anguli to the mentalis and the depressor labii. So for this one, I'm going to use clay, make sure it's not affecting the backside. Clay or trim dynamic will work. You'll choose the one that you're more comfortable with. You want to start making, especially at this point in the process. You want to start making these choices, and then unmaking them, and then changing your mind and remaking them. Okay. All right, pretty simple what I did, but it set us up fairly well. Let's fill in. I'm still using clay brush. Let's fill in that temporal line. Okay. Fill in this transition, frontal eminence, and then I'm going to smooth some of that out. That glabella got quite a hit. I'm not sure why it's dipping down there. I have to look. I must have missed something in the sculpt. So I'm just emphasizing the glabella and simplifying that. Down plane. Okay. Okay, let's start to get that eye using trim dynamic, and I'm just kind of running around in a circle in there. And that starts to set me up. Okay. Side plane of the nose. Oops. Okay. And we need to start to make some distinctions. But you cannot miss that that's a male head at this point. Let's get in there and do the nostrils. And then the nostril and the alar facial juncture. Nasal labial fold. Lips. Corner of the eye, middle of the eye. Yeah, okay, we're doing okay. But start to point that down. Marionette line. And alar cartilage. Lateral cartilage. Nose. Dip in. Okay. Just going to set up the up and down plane for the lips. It's a bit on the full lipped side of things, but that's okay for now. I'm also starting to set up that nasal labial fold so that this would start to be a little rounder or a little shallower. Less full, basically. Trim dynamic. Start to flatten that infraorbital triangle, but also be building it up. So finding the side plane of the nose and just trying to build a plane there. Of course, the way I build a plane is with trim dynamic. I'll flatten one section of the plane, press Alt, bring up another section of that plane. Okay, so still with trim dynamic. Okay, and I'm still on the lips, and I'm just now going to go in with trim dynamic to just establish that up and down plane. Yeah, from a distance that reads well. Okay, and there we go. Just a line I always make separates the lower lip quite well, I think, to just go in and dig that in. Last thing I think I'm really worried about with this guy is that nose. It's quite dominant here, so let's just see if I bring it in a little bit. It's either or. Could be brought in a little bit though. And then trim dynamic. Let's start to establish a couple of planes. Take off some of that chunkiness that we intentionally put onto that nose and really open those nostril wings. Smooth. Okay, and we're still fairly low res here. Can divide it one more time. And we absolutely have ourselves set up with all the elements that we need to go in and start to create a more masculine face. So come in, add a little bit more here. And yeah, let's just thin that out. That's the topology problem right there. Okay. And we have a basic structure for us to build on. Of course, we got to go in and sculpt these eyeballs and all of that stuff. But this is absolutely a firm foundation. Let me just get that eyelid. H polish. Nasal jugulo, can never say that right. Okay, and we got a small indicator ready for us to put more. All right. So that in a nutshell is the process of kind of going or adjusting or yeah, well, just adjusting for a male head. Just to re-emphasize a couple of the elements that were important. It was relatively few items for you to keep track of. Not a ton of them. But what we had to do is focus on the glabella. It's probably the word I've said the most. Okay, sloped forehead. Okay, we really wanted this down plane of the glabella, but that's just part of the glabella. We really wanted to adjust the rhombus and also the angle of the jaw. We adjusted the width of the mandible. We also adjusted the width of alar cartilage, the alar cartilage. Right, like a doctor, huh? We modified the width of the zygomatic bone. We kind of pulled that in. A female is going to tend to have a wider zygomatic. Well, the zygomatic bones will be farther apart. That just emphasizes the eyes. And then we also just made sure that plane changes were distinct. So there's not a whole heck of a lot to adjust, but these are core elements. You want to make sure you write them down, make sure you got them. All right, hope you enjoyed, hope you found this useful.